Welcome to the Agent Upgrade Podcast with your hosts Jasmine Krnjetin and Alan Corey, where we learn the strategies of top producing real estate agents so you have the tools to upgrade your own real estate career.
Welcome to another episode of Agent Upgrade with Jasmine and Alan. Good to see you, Jasmine.
Nice to see you, Alan. What is new in your world?
Well, probably like everyone listening here, it's you feel like a king or queen every time you have a listing, and you feel like a pauper every time you have a buyer who loses. Another bidding war out there. Very crazy market. I don't see it changing. I feel like this hot spring started a month earlier than normal, and clients are getting educated quickly that they're going to have to lose a few bidding wars before they make a move, and you got to put in an offer that as if you love the property, an offer you can't refuse. And we're seeing a few that are waiving, quite frequently, multiple offers waiving the appraisal contingency, waiving the financing contingency, doing all they can to compete against all cash offers. Are you sort of seeing that on your end, on the Jasmine team mortgage side?
Yes, absolutely. It's been really interesting. We had about 14 offers go in this weekend, and 9 of them got accepted.
Whoa!
I know.
Whoa! Wait! That's too high of a percentage.
It was. I'm just saying. We got the magic sauce.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've been working with our agents to try and really make our buyers stand out. And so a project that I've been working on over the last couple of weeks has been trying to reverse engineer our loans to shorten down the amount of time that it takes to close a loan. So we have closed several loans on 15-day turn time. So at this point, we're going in, we're waiving appraisal, we're waiving financing, we're closing in 15 days, we're offering XYZ above asking. So we're trying to do everything we can, especially for the first-time home buyers who are going to be looking in that, $300,000 to $400,000 range where everybody needs a home, and there is still a lot of cash offers that we're competing against. So.
Yeah. Well, a cash offer needs typically 2 weeks to close, running title and getting on the closing attorney's calendar. So if you can compete with that and closing date, that's huge. Yeah. And then I would imagine in order to close within 15 days, you must have done a pretty thorough pre-approval up front. So waiving the financial contingency is probably low risk.
Yeah.
You're looking at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my team, we've got, underwriter level loan, processors on the team. So by the time we send out a pre-approval, we have looked at income, we've looked at tax returns. We know that these borrowers are good. Really, financing contingencies for us are just like a feel good.
Yeah.
It's not like that you just went on some online thing and plugged in your credit, your social security number, and then 7 minutes later you get a pre-approval letter, right? This is actually like us thinking through like, well, you had 4 W-2s last year. This is what that means, right? And making sure that our borrowers, before we send our agents out and about, that our borrowers are 100% ready to go. And I do not fear that any of them will fall apart on financing. So,
well, that's what makes you the best. That's why I use you. And if you don't know about Jasmine, she makes me look good all the time. JasmineMortgageTeam.com, licensed in 48 states, everything but New York and Hawaii. I know you will never plug your own company, so I'll do it.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Alan.
No problem. But let's move along. So let's pick the brain of our awesome guest today. We're in for a real treat. Adrianna Berlin from KW in Atlanta, and she is out there in this crazy market as well. So let's hear her stories and how she differentiates herself as a top agent in the Metro Atlanta area. And I'm really excited to bring her in and have her on the show here. Welcome, Adrianna.
Hi.
Hello. Well, Adrianna is my friend first. She was my friend before you only know her because I know her.
That's true.
How fortunate for him.
I know. So I was thinking back, I think that the way Adrianna and I got to know each other was because my sister and we were looking into potentially starting an alternative school, and we ordered books and boxes of like start your own school kind of a kit. And then somehow through the grapevine, I think somebody told you that we had done that. And then we ended up just handing you all of our books on starting this alternative school. And you started an alternative school instead.
Yes. Yeah. We started a school. We found a non-traditional education approach was just a much better alignment for our values and for where we wanted to see my 12-year-old go. So we started a school and we put it in Clarkston, which is a great little town right outside of Atlanta. We've since moved to Clarkston so that our 12-year-old can walk to school. And I get asked all the time by clients, like, so you do all this and you also started a school? And my piece of advice is like, don't start a school. Just find the one that you want your kid to go to and move to it. But
I think I was onto that. The moment I opened up those manuals, I was like, yeah, never mind. Great idea. Ended up to somebody way smarter than me.
It's so good though, because
Yeah.
I have this viewpoint into the side of Atlanta that you don't see when we get so focused in real estate on good schools or great school districts. And we have a lot of clients, and I think probably I like cultivate them a little bit, but we have a lot of people, especially in a city this big, that aren't just looking for City of Decatur schools. They're not looking for the super traditional path. And so it's kind of a neat opportunity for me to become an ambassador for non-traditional schools, but also an ambassador for people who don't necessarily need the public school system or want the public school system. And it's great because it opens up all of these different areas and price points to people because they're not so dead set on, I have to be in the highest performing school in the city.
I can't imagine as a real estate agent a better way to plug yourself into a community as to be a founder of a school. Like you are now one of the pillars of I would imagine the Clarkston where this school is located. Like you're going to be connected to every student, every parent that kind of goes through there. What even though you're doing it not for business real estate wise, I would imagine there's definitely an effect. Have you noticed that or seen that at all? Or
yeah, I mean, I think it's really like any organization, right? Like we tell new agents, kind of look at what your lead sources are going to be. And I don't consider this necessarily a lead source, but because I'm so connected and so vocal and I'm out in this community touching people in a different way, I do get a lot of opportunity to talk real estate. And who doesn't love talking about real estate? Even people who don't know anything about real estate love to talk about real estate. So it's always an opportunity to be connected and moving forward.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And kudos to you. I mean, a lot of people say, I don't like the schools that my kids go to, and they just leave it at that. And you do something about it, which goes to your nature. And I would imagine you do that, go to battle for your clients. Like that's not something that's one and done. That's got to be like an inner drive of yours constantly. So,
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so if you're listening to this, it's just problem solving. I think a lot of agents, it's problem solving and getting creative or creating your own solution. And you did it with schools. I can totally see that skill set transferring over to, and a good reason why you're a great real estate agent.
So do you do any problem solving with your clients, Adri?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I tell people that, especially in this day and age where you can really search online. I always say, like, you're having your glass of wine after your kids have gone to bed and you're starting to fantasize about what you want your next place to look like. And so a lot of people, like 50% of my clients find the house that they're going to buy, and 50% of my clients, I'm the one who finds the house. But where my superpower is during the negotiation. And it is my job to get creative. It is my job to find the answers. And I always say, if I'm not freaking out, do not freak out. Because I can find an answer. If I'm freaking out, I don't have an answer and I'm going to find one for you. But I think for the most part, really, that's what being a real estate agent is. It's like, I have a client right now who's taking the the class, and he's like dead set that he's going to be this big time agent. But he doesn't understand when I talk to him that this is really about finding those solutions more than it is just going out and kind of wheeling a deal.
So you have a client, they're helping buy or sell a home, and then they're getting their real estate license. So this drives me crazy because what I think is happening is they see you excelling and you make it look easy. And then that client's like, oh, I can do this because Adrianna can do this with without even thinking twice about things. Like, I don't know. That's what I pick up on because clients think real estate agents or it's an easy profession. It's the #1 search job during the pandemic was how to become a real estate agent. There's 3 times as many licensed agents out there as there are listings in the entire United States. So I think that also a compliment to you that you make, like, because if you were freaking out, then that client's not going to be like, oh, I want this job, I want this career, like you made it seem easy. I mean, that's awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think I'm always interested in seeing, because I have a lot of clients that I go through the process and then they decide that they really want to try to get licensed. And I'm really thankful. And I love that they reach out to me and they really want to have some mentorship during the process. And I generally tell people, finish the class and take the test. And then remember that most of that stuff you will never think about again. It's pretty much like every degree, that this is a job of experience. The continuing education is really important. It kind of drives me nuts that older realtors don't have to do continuing education because I think it's so important to stay up on that stuff. But the reality is that learning about all of the stuff you sit in that 72-hour class is really not what makes you a good agent. I mean, it's like we tell our 12-year-old that whole joke of what's the title? What do you call the person who came in last in his class in med school? Doctor.
Doctor.
Nobody knows how. I'm sure you guys probably don't even remember when you passed tests to become certified or licensed, like what your score was on.
78. Who's keeping track?
Yeah.
I passed.
Yeah, I think it was pass fail. Yeah.
And I think there's this thing that people. So we talk about working on and working in your business. And one of the things I tell new agents all the time is like, stop working on your business and start working in your business. Because what I think sets a good agent apart is somebody who is not afraid to get in and actually do the work and have those conversations and do those negotiations. This is not just about opening a door and showing a really pretty kitchen. And then all of a sudden, poof, it's all great and everybody's happy.
Right.
And it's that same thing. Like when I love helping new agents. I love mentoring them. I love coaching with them. And I love seeing them do things like sketch out logos for like 2 weeks. So I'm like, you don't even have you're like going at this all wrong. You really need to go out. You need to have money coming in before you need to be worrying about logos and what email you're going to use and what website it is. So I appreciate that I have a lot of people who think that this is easy. And I'm really glad that they feel comfortable coming to me and asking for that support. More often than not, they get partway through the class and they realize this is just really dry and not that much fun. And then they start seeing the reality where we're busy all weekend long. We work every night. That's, it's a great job, but it's not a job. It's like a lifestyle.
Yeah. The biggest misconception I think of our career is you get to make your own hours like that. Yeah. I don't know where that got started.
So cute.
Yeah, so cute. You're so innocent to say that. Yeah. You work your clients' hours. You don't get to make your own hours. So kind of thing. So that's funny. I think what you also do, which is great, is like when we're working on a deal and we're exchanging emails about the deal, you have something that's really awesome in your email signature that that it's not something you just keep to your clients. It's something you share freely. I would imagine if it's your email signature to everyone that you email. You want to tell us a little bit about what you've got there?
Yes, I have a trusted contractors list. I have always believed that my greatest source of power comes from the community around me. And so I love that I'm able to connect and network with people so effectively in this position. So I created this contractors list. I keep it updated. It's pretty rudimentary how I do it. It's just in a Google spreadsheet. If I get 3 complaints about you, you come off the spreadsheet and I find somebody else to go in that because you represent me, because I'm putting you out on that. And I have other realtors who use that as their primary thing. I have other realtors that I know for a fact they just copy and paste my entire list. And I'm totally fine with that because I want the community that supports me, those contractors, also deserve to have more and more business for being good at what they do. But it's been really helpful. I actually am doing the coaching program with the Listings Lab because I listened to Jess on this podcast. And
Jess Lenovo.
Yeah, what a powerhouse.
She was great. That was a great episode.
Yeah, that was a great episode. I totally fell in love with her. And the first time that she sent me a message through Facebook, I was like, ah! She's thinking about me right now.
If you don't know, that was episode 24 on Agent Upgrade, Jess Lenovo, if you guys want to check that one out. Yeah,
phenomenal.
So what did you learn from her?
Well, just like learning from her a lot about what your niche is and what your value is to your community. And so that's something that, for me, I'm always looking for a way to be a resource and be helpful. Because I think there is a lot of realtor noise. We talk a lot about in that program, and we talk a lot in our office and with colleagues about like what is it that you want to be giving out, and how do you want to be perceived by your community? And I always want to be perceived as somebody who is able to listen to what my clients need and what my community members need, and that I always have a good resource for that. So being able to send that out on every email. I'm not super email savvy, so I didn't realize when I was sending it out that it would send out as an attachment when I first did it. But then the amount of usage that people get out of it is just, it's really gratifying. It's great. And I'll put it out on like a Facebook page or our neighborhood page. Somebody will ask about it. And I don't just give them the contractor, I give them the whole list, because I know every time that they open that, they're seeing my name at the top and they're associating me with upgrading their life in some way. So it is a really powerful tool. And I think that any realtor who is not cultivating that list is really missing a really easy and a really free opportunity to become a great resource.
And I just want to, it's not just electricians and plumbers on this list. I'm gonna read sort of some of these things, if you don't mind, on your list. And this is also cool. It's marked whether it's locally owned, woman owned, or a minority owned. I think that's huge. And so you could filter and sort by any of those categories within these vendors. We got accounting, appliance, arborist, architecture, attorney, bakery, barbershop, babysitters, breastfeeding, carpet, upholstery, chimney repair, doulas, fencing, financial planning. These not things that just sort of house. You got Linder here, Jasmine team. You made the list, Jasmine. Mold testing, nail salon, painter, pest control, pool keeping, psychic medium. Wow.
He's phenomenal if you're into that.
Okay. Psychic medium, staging, tree removal, yard maintenance. I mean, yeah, who's not going to keep this around? It's like
super helpful.
Super helpful. And you said, how often do you update this and maintain it? Whenever you get negative feedback, you find a new person?
Yeah. So I let people know, hey, you're going on my list. I'm not asking you for anything. You do not have to give discounts or special privileges to any of my clients. Just let me know if they have reached out to you and mentioned my name. It's a good way for me to see if that person is using me as a resource. And even if they're not a client, I can reach back out to them and say, hey, I understood you reached out to the plumbers. How was that experience? Is there anything else I can help you with? And it kind of opens up that line of dialogue. And the other side of that from the vendors is they know I mean business. And so I tell them, if I get 3 complaints about you, I have to remove you from the list. And so it's great because I'm able to call them and give them some pretty immediate feedback, and they know that I am just trying to help support that. But it does represent me. So I am really careful about who goes on the list. These are all people either I have used myself or I have used through a client and had a really great experience. But it's great. I mean, I'll put it in a Facebook list, and then for the next week, every single time I'm in there, it'll say like, little anonymous squirrel is in here. And it makes me feel really good to know that it is getting used. There's this whole like line of thinking as a lead source that anybody that you get a ton of business to, you should be reaching out to them and saying, hey, I know that I refer you X number of people every quarter, and I would really like to be considered when you have somebody. I don't do that to these vendors because I want them to feel valued for who and what they do, and not just for something. All of that will come. They're going to send me business if they keep hearing my name every single time it comes up. It's kind of that one thing that they talk about in the listings lab is omnipresence, and it's kind of that omnipresence. Like once the plumbers started getting a ton of clients and people started mentioning my name a lot, when I connected to them and I needed something, they were here within 24 hours.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's like, yeah, I didn't get a discount. I didn't ask for a discount for myself. I didn't get a discount for myself, but I love that now I can call and say, hey, my friend Alan is having some major sewage issues. Can you head over to his house? And they trust me and know me to be able to get out there. So it's another layer of service to my clients that you kind of cultivate over time, and wasn't something I planned to do. I didn't like devise this whole plan that I was going to be able to like take over vendors and own them. But I just really love that clients know. Recently had a client who his ceiling caved in his kitchen while he was cooking. And he was like, I knew that list, and I knew you would call everybody for me. And I just did. I called everybody. I got people over there within 24 hours to fix everything for him. But I love that he didn't feel the need in his time of stress to have to go through Yelp or call a bunch of friends or whatever. He just knew I had this ready to go and could make it happen.
So the best feeling in the world was like, I had a friend who was in band or had a band, and he would play shows around town, and it was my roommate. And so he would put me on the guest list, and I got to go to the door and be like, oh yeah, I'm on the guest list, Alan Corey. You just felt so cool, right? Like, oh, I get a little special privilege that I got to say your name, right? And so that's what your clients are feeling, because they're calling, the barbershop or whatever, the caterer that you have on this list, and saying, hey, Adrianna Berlin, recommended me to you, right? And then they're going to feel that person on the other line pipes up, gives them special treatment, gets over there quickly, and they got that by name dropping you. Like, imagine that feeling for a client. Like that's that same feeling I had putting my name, getting my name on a guest list at some dive bar in Athens, Georgia. But like that's really cool. Like they have to say your name, and then it's almost like they get a free pass, a special perk, and it's the magic code word is Adrianna Berlin. I mean, that's genius. That's genius.
I had somebody, this was in my early 20s, and I had somebody come to me and say, will you tell everybody about my project I'm working on? And I couldn't wrap my head around why he was coming to me. And then I overheard him telling someone, oh, now I'm waiting for the Adri bump to happen.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, this is me. I could totally make people happier if I just introduce them to and like get them out into the community. And so I am like the person at every party that's like, Alan, It is so nice to see you here. I know that you just wrote a book, and Jasmine loves reading books. So Jasmine and Alan, why don't you guys chat, and I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like that is really what we do. I mean, we do a lot of the other stuff,
Right.
but we are really about connecting people to places and connecting people to the process, connecting people to each other and their community, and that is so fulfilling to me.
Mm-hmm. What I love about that is, so like there is all these different types of, like you have your past clients that you're reaching out to, you have the marketing that you're doing to attract new clients, but then also you have this list where these are, let's say this is 50 people in your community that you can reach out to, that you can go out to lunch with, grab a coffee. You've essentially created like your own, networking group or BNI group or whatever. Like you just have all your favorite people. And so you are always out in the community, right? Like, the girl that's the baker, and the car mechanic, everybody that's good in your community. And so I feel like that's also like a networking opportunity, right? You can be like, hey, Bob, haven't seen you for a while. You want to go grab breakfast tomorrow, right? And then you go out to breakfast with, guy from the barbershop. Inevitably, you're going to talk about real estate. I mean, even if you don't bring it, even if you don't say, hey, Bob, I want you to send me your referrals, you guys are just chatting, having some pancakes. Next thing you know, well, my dad is thinking of selling this garage down the street or whatever, right? And so just cultivating those, like literally like having almost like a campaign, like, because maintaining this list is intense. Like I've been thinking about creating a list for a really long time, but it's kind of intimidating to, first of all, to create it, but then also to nurture it. But if you're already going to be spending all this time on the list, then you might as well take the time to connect with your psychic.
He's amazing. I know it's not everyone's speed, and I had a moment of like, I'm not going to put her on there but then I was like, somebody out there, and I have to say, she is probably the second most asked for category once people see that it's on there. It is,
everybody needs a good psychic,
right? She's phenomenal. Yeah, I really love it. It actually was not hard for me to cultivate. I have been through some iterations of what my business looks like, and I kind of started devising this because I had partnered with some people in the past that I didn't really love their contractors. So I kind of started cultivating this list, and now I've just turned it over to my assistant. And I have people who come to me and say, oh, I noticed that you don't have an XYZ on the list, and my sister owns this business. Would you mind chatting with her and then putting her on the list? And I send that over to my assistant. I am so fortunate to be at a place in my career where I have an assistant and I have a transaction coordinator. This year I may need to expand. I don't know what that's going to look like because I don't feel like I've done it successfully in the past in a way that's really authentic to me. But once you kind of get something like this moving, and I think this is one of those working on versus working in, this is one of those working on my business things that I could hand over so easily to somebody else. And most people who look at this list, I mean, nobody who looks at this list will know that I haven't even opened that spreadsheet in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But like, what a huge value and what a great talking point that I get to have. Even close friends who would are not buying and selling, the fact that they come to me for this information allows me an opportunity to remind them one more time that I'm in real estate. And there's that whole don't be a secret agent. I don't have to be, because I'm the person that they come to when there is a change in their life, when they have concerns about issues on their property. I get to be the everything to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really powerful. And I love that. And it's also really just, it's so authentically you, because this is exactly who you are. You're a connector, and you're super genuine, and everybody wants to be your friend. So this is just totally an extension of of
I
who
hope
you
that's
are in the
true.
world. Yeah, and that's pretty special to be able to like find your voice and find your way of being a businesswoman and just staying authentic to yourself, as opposed to, you know, trying to do like, you know, the perfect realtor headshot or whatever whatever it is that's the latest thing out there. So talk to us a little bit about like when you look at 2022, what have you sat down, have you made some interesting goals, decisions? What are you forecasting for this year for your team and just in general? Where do you see us going?
2022 is going to be a big year, and I feel fortunate that we have kind of the market and the price point. Price points have gone up enough that where my first year in real estate, I was doing, my average price point was like 225,000, and now my average price point is up near 500. So it's been kind of nice because along with the growth in my business, the growth in price point has helped a lot. I traditionally have come from the more I do, the better off I am. And this year, one of my big things is to really figure out what my niche is and really start developing my business through that lens. I have done a really good job of having a really wide and really deep kind of past client base to pull from. But I think there's a reality to, once you kind of are pulling from that, you really do need to be growing your database in a kind of authentic way, but in a much more, I just have to have more coming in. I only have 409 people in my database, in my real estate database, but given that I did $12 million last year,
That's awesome.
and I actually referred out about $3 million worth of business because I had some medical leave that I did last year. So I, this year, want to do all of that myself. My plan is to do 15 million.
That's awesome.
I really want to be focusing on people who are upsizing, and that isn't just people who are selling another house to move into one, but people who realize that their house is not working for them anymore. And I have been thinking a lot about this like, Jasmine had been to that house. We lived in this really crazy house. We really loved it. It was really big, but it was just like someone had taken 3 buildings and kind of smashed it together. And we were constantly in this fight of trying to figure out how to make the house work better for us. And it really, your relationship with your house should be a really good symbiotic relationship. And I think we all get into this point where you're living in this home and you are saying to yourself, like, well, if I just did this one more Pinterest project, then it'll be perfect. Now I just need to spend my weekend. If we just do this, then it'll feel really good. And then all of a sudden you realize that you're spending more time and more money making the house work for you than the house is ever going to do in return. So I'm really focused on that this year. I am like exploring a lot about what it would mean to bring on a buyer's agent or showing assistant. I don't understand how teams work where somebody comes to work with me and then it gets handed off to somebody else and then I don't talk to the person the whole rest of the transaction. Even when I had back surgery last year and was like off for 4 weeks, just couldn't do it. And even in that time frame, I had loaned out a lot of my clients to Tim Cox, who you guys have also had on the show, for his team to help me with. And people were still secretly calling me and going, I can't put in an offer until you see this house. I have to. I'm not coming to see this house. I'm not walking, so you will be doing this on your own. So like, what does that look like for me? If people are coming to work with me, they want to hear my voice. They're hearing from people that I have great opinions. I have good ways to help them kind of make the decisions they're making. How do I help them if I'm just handing them off to Alan Corey because he's my buyer's agent?
Right.
So
I mean, that's a struggle that I've had. I think I'm getting better at it, and because it's constantly, whatever, Joe Smith is now going to lead and be your main point of contact. I have to have that conversation way up front, because what happens is, at the end of every day after showings, they call me and say, I want to. They tell me like about all 6 homes that they saw, and I was like, I don't need this update. And I was like, you have to trust my member of my team. I trust the member of my team to lead you and guide you and tell you, how to make an offer. I'm talking to this person behind the scenes, every day, and we're strategizing. But for me to be your main point of contact, I don't think I can give you as good advice as my teammate who was there with you during that showing. The clients, it took a while for them to sort of get in onto it. And what I realized, obviously these were different clients over time, is I was getting better at it. And I was, and I think it helped, because I felt bad when they would call me out of the blue and say, hey, so what did you think about that offer we wrote yesterday? And I was like, obviously I didn't know whether you wrote an offer. Like I can't say that to a client. I feel like I've let them down. So it's just communicating with my team members. Hey, I need to know these milestones when you're showing them properties, when you're done, what did they think? Just give me updates, because they're going to want to hear me a lot of times saying it. And then every time I talk to that client, it's reiterating to them, hey, remember, so-and-so is your main point of contact. They're going to lead you and guide you, and I trust them fully. If you trust me, you got to trust them, and we're working this deal together. But it's not easy. It's not easy. You're right, to hand that off and to give that clean handoff to someone. So that I think that's a struggle everyone has. So if you learn tricks, come back on the show and teach me, because I need all the help I can get.
I wish that was something that came really easy. I'm really impressed by people who start this, and then they all of a sudden, it's like they can just add 5 people or 12 people, and they have this really big running team, and they're doing $100 million a year. And it works really well for them. But I'm hoping I kind of find that answer this year, because I can't keep, I did, I think 36 transactions last year. And I average somewhere between 20, I do 28 to about 45 a year. And that's just a lot.
It's a lot.
Right.
For one person. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, as much as I love, and I really do love what I do, but one of my goals this year is to be more authentic to myself. I'm really good at putting on a face and getting out and being the fun time gal and having the hard conversations with people through this process. But the one person I tend to not honor is myself. So I, for the first time ever, turned down a client.
Wow.
I realized that they never were going to want to talk to me in regular old business hours. Calling me at like 9:30 at night, and I have 3 kids. I am a pumpkin by about 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
If I'm still functioning. And so it was the first time that I actually had to say to somebody, I just don't think that I'm going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge milestone that every agent remembers. Before I jump on that, I just want to mention, you mentioned when you had back surgery, Timothy Cox is who you give it out to. He was on episode number 7, and he talks about growing a team and leading through empathy. So check that out. But yes, coming back to the point about firing your client, that is a milestone of success, because when you're young and desperate and new, you will take the abuse. You will do everything, grit your teeth, and it's necessary when you're new. But once you reach a certain level of success, to say, hey, I'm above this, or you're not the right fit for me, I'm going to pass you off to someone else. I think that's a sign of success, that you're able to do that. I don't know. Did it feel like that to you?
Yeah. I mean, it's also a privilege, right? That you have enough business that you can turn it down. Because I remember when I had just given birth to my son, and I had a closing that was coming up a week after I had him, and I was a 1-girl show at that point, right? And so I was trying to process it. This was like the old times when you had to fax a file to a lender, that whole thing. And he said that he went to somebody else, because he was like, oh, I heard you had a baby, so I thought I had to go to a different broker because I didn't think you could close my loan. And I was like, dude, no. Because I was like, that $4,000 check was
Yes.
what I was going to buy diapers with for next week. I was like, and I fought for that deal. Like I've never fought for a deal before. I was like, dude, I've got a baby. Like you're not going with a different lender. You're staying with me. But I mean, to then be able to look back on that. And then now it's like, oh, that client is just way too high maintenance, and be able to say like, sorry, we're not a good fit. So that's, that's what I'm saying. Like it's a privilege to be able to turn down a client that your next, your next meal doesn't depend on it. But we've all gone through the struggles and paid our dues where we've had to do that.
Which I think you really have to do. And I think that's something that people don't think about when they think about how awesome our jobs are, is they don't realize that there are a lot of dues to be paid in this process. And somewhere over the last 6 months to 8 months, I have shifted from people saying like, I want to talk to you about interviewing you for real estate as my real estate agent, to this like, do you have time right now to work with me? And that shift has been really insane for me. It's been, I traditionally, I actually, as much as I come across sometimes as having a lot of like ego or bravado, I'm actually introvert masquerading as an extrovert. I have a lot of really harsh self-talk that I have to work through. And so all of a sudden to have people asking me, do you have time for me? And I was saying yes. And then all of a sudden I looked down and I was like, oh, I really don't. So I need to be, and that was where kind of the listing lab started to speak to me, as like, I've been through other coaching programs and I'm not a cold caller. I'm not going to go knock on doors. It's just not who I am. I like to meet people with warmth and as a resource for them. But I also realized like I needed help figuring out what my niche was and who I most wanted to be speaking to. Because if I am going to be in a position where people are asking for my time instead of me asking for theirs, I want to make sure it's the people that I want to be working with. So, and I think that this year will be really good for me too, because I'm not willing to do things like cut my commission. We as a industry, we are one of the few industries where women make on par what men make, and that's because we get to decide what we make. And so it's like, I mean, I just had a really good client that I've worked with for years, 2 or 3 houses a year, all kind of investment stuff. So lower price points. It has never bothered me until he called and asked me to take a cut on my commission. And my response back to him was, would you call your daughters and tell them to do the same amount of work, but make 20 cents less an hour? And he was like, no. And I'm like, well, then I'm not going to do it either. Like, if it's not good enough for your daughters, you are calling me and asking me to take money from my children so that you can have a better margin. And I have margins too. So this year will just be, it's more about taking control of what I want to be doing and how I want to be doing it. So,
yeah.
And Jasmine helped me buy my family's cottage in northern Michigan. Thank you.
Yes.
I closed 2 deals with Jasmine. I'm a Jasmine lover personally. But that's part of it for me too, is like, we want to be in northern Michigan a lot. And so I need to be really smart about how I do my business here so that we can ditch and be on the river every time that we kind of think about it.
Yeah, I love that. I love the opportunity that being in real estate gives women, specifically as it pertains to income, right?
Yeah.
Because sky is the limit, right? And if you're a hustler, it doesn't matter. Like, people will work with girls or guys that are great real estate agents. There is just there, you can really build wealth. And then also, as we are in real estate and we're looking at people buying homes, and buying investment properties, like, it just kind of rubs off on you, right? Like, you're in it all the time. And then you, like Alan was saying, we get to make really smart investments with our money. And being that I mean, I trust real estate more than I trust anything else.
Right.
I'm like, Mike, that's a very safe place to park my money. So it's a great opportunity. And you can also, even though like we are never going to get a pension or whatever, but if you spend 10, 20, 30 years in real estate and you start buying a house and another house and another house, you're going to get there. By the time you're ready to retire, you're going to have a portfolio, hopefully, of a few rental properties that can fund your retirement. So
I have to plug Alan's book, House Fire. I have read almost all of it. I'm almost all the way through it. I kind of freaked out because at the beginning of the book, he's like, by the time you're done reading this book, you'll be buying your first property. And I was like, crap, I can't finish this book then because I'm not ready. So yeah, and we totally have. I bought it for I think 4 of my clients, my assistant. I sent
awesome.
a copy to my sister. Yes, I'm a big fan. Because I think that is truly where we have our hands like in it all the time, and it's a really good opportunity. And also, I feel like we have a little bit of this. We need to lead by example. Like, how do I walk out and tell everybody you really should consider real estate as an investment if I'm not willing to do that with my own money? And it's not just learning kind of the ups and downs of it as a personal investor, but also being able to really give somebody some direction. I am an expert witness for a law firm here in town for real estate. And that is something that I have to be careful what cases that I end up working on for them, because if I don't have enough experience, I can't get up there on the stand and be the expert that I need to be.
I want to talk about this. This is awesome.
Yeah, tell us about this.
How do you become an expert witness?
Next thing you know, Alan is going to become an expert witness. Here we go.
Is this a volunteer gig? Are you paid? I want to know all about this. This sounds fun. Yeah,
I'm paid, and I'm paid pretty well. Again, I get to. So there are expert witness companies out there. It's actually something that I want to explore this year. I have lots of opportunity for people who would like to be expert witnesses in the real estate field. And I don't have all the experience and the knowledge that really to hit a lot of these cases.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want to do is kind of explore whether or not this is a good business for me to kind of run here. I hate to say on the side, but I started it with a client. Him and his wife, I stalked them. It was one of my first open houses. I thought they were lovely. He wouldn't tell me his name. She mentioned her name and the company she worked at. And I straight up sent a letter that was like, hey, I know that I'm like your creepy uncle now following you around social media, but I would really like to earn your trust in your business. And cut to like 5 years later, and I'm an expert witness for his firm. And then a lot of my divorce attorney clients will reach out to me when they need help with their cases. So it's actually, I'm hoping to sit for my broker license this year to kind of add more credentials. But it is a really stressful, really big time suck, but it's really worth it because of the money.
Would you share a ballpark range? Are you paid by the hour, by the case?
I charge hourly. I'll be on the stand next month, and I make $500 an hour while I'm on the stand. I get money for travel time. If I have to travel out of state, I have to travel first class. I have to get a per diem. I get paid hourly for reading depositions. And then I just increased my rates in the last like 6 months because I was starting to do lots of little piddly things, which is not bad, but like I can run comps all day long, but writing comps and writing a little report about it, that does take time. And I was like, oh, I want to be making more than $150 an hour when I do this. So now I make $275.
So are you giving testimony on being a real estate agent, just real estate lingo, or sort of like
it'll be things like landlord disputes are things that come up a lot. I don't do a lot of that. That would be something I should reach out to Alan for when those opportunities come up.
I don't have any disputes, but I'll be paid $500 an hour. But yes.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to have the dispute.
Yeah,
You just have to be able to like say,
yeah, exactly,
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of just looking at the contracts, reading through them, talking and understanding the intent behind the contracts. It's a lot of what we do normally, but now they actually want to hear my opinion and pay for it. And I prefer to work with kind of the underdogs. I'm not, and it's kind of my nature in general, is I want to help people get into a better spot. So a lot of the cases or the attorneys that I've worked with are focused on helping kind of the victim in the case. But there is for anybody who is considering something like that, like this, it's really just about reaching out to your lawyer friends. That's what I did. Was my sister's an expert witness. She's a NICU nurse and she does expert witness stuff in the medical field. And I was like, I've watched a lot of Law and Order. I can do this. And it turns out I can, but the first time I sat in a deposition, I mean, I did not do well. It was really intense. It's really intense. I don't know if you guys have ever sat on the stand for something, but it is like, despite the fact that I did not really have any skin in the game, it was nerve-wracking. So it's definitely a skill to be built. I don't think it's for everybody, but somehow I've gotten into it and I like the money and I find it's another one of those really gratifying things. So
I mean, I feel like there's a marketing opportunity here. Like a lot of people call themselves a real estate expert, but you've got like court cases to prove that you are a real estate expert.
You're a real estate expert.
Yeah.
A witness expert.
I had a judge actually call me an expert witness and I was like, yes, I am.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I definitely would like to, I would like to have a network of people that I can help connect to these opportunities because they're such great opportunities, but they are really time intensive. And one of the things I have thought about is, do I really develop this? Because this is something that if we wanted to move to our cottage in northern Michigan, or I wanted to take 2 years off, if I have enough cases like this coming in, I would be able to sustain us financially, still stay within real estate, which is something that I love, but not have to be out doing kind of the day-to-day. And I think that's like, because we don't have pensions, we don't have 401ks, we have to get really creative about what life is going to look like if we can't work or we don't want to work.
I love that. And if you're thinking about it, podcasting doesn't pay very well, but
not a great career choice. Maybe get back to us in about 10, 15 years. We'll let you know.
Maybe we'll figure out how to leverage this into an income. But I love that because to me, that's the biggest struggle about our career is what is the exit plan? And that's why I'm always pushing real estate investing to realtors because you have to work till you die. And so there is no, like you said, pension or anything like that. But yeah, expert witness testimony, that's I've never heard that. I love that. And I now am going to encourage everyone to do that. Because after a while, you've got 30, 40 years in this business. Of course, you're going to be an expert if you've been doing something that long. And our business also to kind of speak to length in our business, because in an extreme market like we're in right now, it's usually the top agents to get the few listings. And there's been studies that sort of the real estate business falls down to the Pareto rule, which is the 80-20 rule, and in two fashions, where it's the 20% of the top agents get 80% of the business. And it just takes longevity a lot of times to get in that top 20%. I know at least in Atlanta, the top producer is if you're in the top 15%. So as long as you qualify for the top producer, which is top 15%, you're already in that Pareto rule sort of way of doing things. And to take that niche a little bit longer or narrower, it's 20% of our actions as a real estate agent will also produce 80% of your results, which Jasmine and I talked about at our year-end planning sort of episode. So really look back and see what is it that 20% of your spreadsheet earning you 80% of the business? Is it 20% of your expert witness testimony getting you press, or producing 80% of your business, is recognizing where your business is coming from. And so I love using that 80-20 rule over and over again. But sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but this has been very interesting, a lot to think about. And I'm sure people listening are going to like and subscribe to this episode quite often because they've learned so much from you, Adrianna Berlin. Jam that like button, go online, leave a review for your podcast. And do you have any parting words for us? Any sort of things that maybe a new agent should be on the lookout for, or maybe even experienced agents, advice, things that you've learned along the way that we didn't discover?
Oh my gosh. I think the number one thing that I have to remind myself, and I try to talk to new agents about a lot, is just that whole principle of working on versus in. You really, as an experienced agent who's busy, you have to realize where that line is, because it is really easy to kind of get stuck in your computer and stuck in how many times have real estate agents rebranded? Like, I know real estate agents who basically rebrand every 2 years, and I'm like, the money and the time cannot possibly be worth that brand.
Right.
So I think for that is just like my number one thing to harp on people about, is like, make sure that you have business that's making you money, and make sure that you're doing the things that are actually going to get you there.
When you loosely touched upon on your business, in your business, this is what I understand of that. In your business means I got to write up this offer. I've got to reply to this email. I got to return this voicemail. I got to go do this showing. You're in the business and pushing the gears around to make it work. On your business, you're sort of on the outside looking in, almost like a consultant, and you're saying, how could this be more efficient? How can I get these gears move more quickly? Is it a software? Is it an admin, a virtual admin? Is it maybe I create some email templates of my frequently asked questions, so I can just hit one button to reply. That's working on your business, not in your business. Is that sort of how you see it as well?
Totally. I totally think that working on your business is the things that help you become successful, but working in your business is what actually makes you successful. There's a really good book called Traction that they talk about how to kind of create culture and cultivate people appropriately within your organization. And they talk a lot there about kind of having your visionary. Every successful big company has the kind of visionary guy and the guy who kind of makes it all happen. And when you're a really small company like me, where it's just kind of me, I have to be both those things. So I need to make sure that I'm balancing out really well how much time I'm spending on kind of each of those functions. And it's so really gratifying to get through an entire day of working on my business, and I can look back and I can see that, like, yeah, I got those FAQs written out and they have my voice, and I feel like I got that, Facebook post up that looks really good, and it really, all that stuff is great. But the reality is that if I'm not out showing houses, I'm not going to make the money. And so all that vision really has to like push me back to, okay, so I have my voice out there. I've gotten these like tasks done for the day, but what I need to do is go back now, work in my business and make myself that money. So it is like a kind of cyclical, or like has to support itself. But I do think it's easy to play realtor. It's really easy to play realtor because you don't have
TV.
You don't have a boss. You don't have, and especially if you're particularly good about money, you don't necessarily know when you're having a lean time because you've been so good about it, but that will get you out of the habit of actually getting out there and showing houses. Especially for someone like me, that I'm an introvert masquerading as an extrovert. I would happily sit here at my computer all day long and rebrand and do classes and whatever else that it was that I thought, like, this is making me successful. But in the end, it's always going to be getting out in front of my clients where my money is going to be made.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. If people, do you have social media, or if people want to follow up questions and want to pick your brain, or if you're open to it, do you have any sort of way to contact you that you'd want to share?
Yeah, they can email me at adriannaberlin@gmail.com. I love helping people figure out what is going to be the best part of the next set of like area in their life. So and if anybody wants to reach out, I'm totally an open book. I do not think that anyone has to reinvent the wheel on this. If somebody gets an email from me and they have my little contractors list, like please share it. Take my name off the top and feel free to share it, because this is how we all grow, is to help each other out as much as possible.
Thank you very much. Thanks for listening to Agent Upgrade. We'll see you next Tuesday. Please like and subscribe, and you're going to get beautiful wisdom like Adrianna just gave us, hopefully every episode. That's going to be tough to top. That was a wonderful, wonderful knowledge drops that you gave us. Thank you so much for joining, and hope to have you back on the show soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Agent Upgrade podcast. If you are an agent looking for a new mortgage lender, start with Jasmine at jasmineteam.com. If you want to learn about real estate investing and working with investors, check in with Alan at thehouseofac.com. See you next time on Agent Upgrade.